Hi, and welcome to this church planting YouTube channel. We're so excited to share the first of 12 principles about church planting that we're going to be sharing through this channel. The first principle would seem like common sense, but it's really not. So here's the first principle. Church plants should be born out of the heart of God. Now, aren't all churches born in the heart of God, you may ask? Well, maybe not really. So we're going to talk a little bit about the reasons of why church planting should be planted. And first of all, we're going to talk about the reasons why you should definitely not plant a church. Here's the first reason to not plant a church. Number one, church fights or church splits. I know that at times we have the idea that all the saints, they never fight, they get along, but that's not always true. And at times people are part of a congregation, they split and they feel like they should do their own thing elsewhere, and they start doing their own thing, and they call that a church plant, what is really not a church plant, but a church split. So if you have experienced this, you know what I'm talking about. Churches are not born out of fight, out of division, but churches are born in the heart of God. So I really want to for us to think about that. Number two, churches should be born in the heart of God, not out of our worship styles, preferences, or what we feel like is more comfortable to us. Churches should not be born out of preferences. Oh, I like that style. I think that's a cooler style of worship. I think that's a cooler style of church. Therefore, I'll go there. Or let's plant a cool church where all we could go and be and have the things that we like and we want. But that's not a good reason. At least that's not a biblical reason why to start a church. And number three, a lot of times churches are born because we want to mix with only people that look like us, eat like us, think like us. And that's not a biblical reason why to plant a church. When it comes to language, of course, there's a language barrier. We should always be able to get the message of the gospel across language barriers, but not because we only want to be with people that look only like us. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about the reasons to plant a church. So the principle I want you to take home with you today that you could really wrestle with is that churches should be born out of a vision of God's heart. And that vision always comes from a place of love. Number one, love for the lost. Love for people that don't know Jesus yet. Love for people that haven't made a decision for him. And you see Jesus time after time telling stories about the lost son, about the lost sheep, about the lost coin, the pearl, because that was his motivation, that was his passion. So if it was Jesus' passion, it should be ours as well. Churches should be born out of a vision in God's heart, out of love for lost. Also, churches could be born out of a vision of unreached people groups. Sometimes there might be a people group in your city, in your community, and wherever you may be, that is not being reached by the local church. And if there's a group of people that has not been reached by the local church, then maybe God is calling you to reach this group of people. And number three, there'll be also maybe some unmet needs in the community. Some unmet needs in the community for certain people. And maybe God is calling you as a church to wrap your arms around this group of people and really help them and meet those needs and be the hands and feet of Jesus for those people. So never we want to plant a church born out of strife, out of splits, out of preference, but we always want to plant a church that is born out of a vision in God's heart to meet the needs of the people, to reach unreached people groups, and always for a love for the lost. When you plant a church that is born out of the heart of God, these type of churches tend to evangelize a whole lot better. They're churches that tend to get more credibility with people. People really know what your motivations are. So these are churches that tend to share the gospel because that's what they were there in the first place. Churches that were created by splits, by preferences, well, they wanted to do their own thing maybe, and that's what they're doing. They're not as invested in reaching the gospel. So it's very important that these churches were born out of the vision in God's heart. Also, pastors, if you're a lay person, you're planting a church, you're going to gain a whole lot of more credibility with people if you plant a church born out of the heart of God. It's a lot easier. People will follow you more because they know that this is not a vision only shared by you, but it's a vision that God has given you. And therefore, they will follow that vision because people, resources, always follow vision. And number 3, also, churches that are born in the heart of God, they tend to minimize the baggage that people may bring out of a previous experience out of the church. So people that are invested in really wanting to be part of the church plant because they just can't stand that there are people that don't know Jesus yet, or there are unreached groups that don't know Jesus yet, or there are groups of people that have some needs that have not been met, and they want to invest their lives in. So all that acquired baggage, it comes to a second place. That is not going to be a huge factor. So these are very important things. So I want to, the main idea that I want you to take with you, and it seems like common sense, but it's not, is that the first thing we need to ask ourselves, why are we planting this church? Are we planting a church because that's something that I think it's cool, or I think it's romantic, it sounds sexy, or we're planting a church because it is born out of the heart of God? I can't wait to share more of the principles that we will be discussing about during the following videos to come. And remember, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe share with somebody else that is thinking and wanting to be invested in planting a church. Thank you, and see you next time.